Hey Excel, what's going on? Listen, we've been talking about family and future and the relationship therein. And I want to share with you a few things that connect the issue of family to the issue of the future. There are people that disassociate their future from their origin. And I think that destination is not possible without considering origin. And so we discovered that in order to consider what we think the future is, we got to go through what we think the roles, the ministries, and the points and the purposes of families are. And so we started off talking about families, not just the mother, not just the father, not just the sister, not just the brother, but the whole concept of the unit of support and the unit of garrison and the unit of security that's around where you're going, who you are, and what you're supposed to be. The initial issue of family founders is this. People think that family founders are only about origins, but that's not totally true. It's also about securing, protecting, and guiding futures. So, for example, the father is the father because he carries the seed. The mother is the mother because she nurtures the seed. So they are all future ministries. And I think that when we're dealing with family founders, we're not thinking futuristic enough. I think we're thinking about the family tree, the family past, the family history, the family origin, but we're not thinking about the goals, the landing points of what family needs to mean. And so because of that, I think fathers are future managers. They are those that invest and carry, protect, uh, watch over, guard, shamar, patrol futures. Mothers are nurturers, investors. They are those that deepen the seed, the wisdom, the concepts, the character, the characteristics of that was implanted in her. All of this is about seed. In Genesis, the family origin and unit started with a conversation about seed. And if the father is not the father, the mother is not the mother, then the seed can't be what the seed was meant to be. So when we're dealing with family founders, we're dealing with people that have agreed or submitted to the will of God concerning what's coming out of them. Here's the crisis. Most people are unaware of what's coming out of them. And when you are unaware of what's coming out of you, you don't know how to take care of it and or steward it. In the family unit, whether it's by blood or by spirit, there is a pecking order or a line of responsibility or a line of call that all carries assignments to it. For example, Pharaoh issued an assignment against the firstborn. Herod issued an assignment against the firstborn. And so the assignment of murder, attack, death, depravity, the grave is on the firstborn because the firstborn is the opener. The firstborn is the one that discovers. The firstborn is the one that confronts the unknown. The middle learns from the firstborn, or should. And the middle becomes the one that is the balancer and the one that keeps the ties together. The youngest is the perfected one because it represents almost like the Trinitarian view of parental guidance and or force. So when you have a sibling pecking order, whether it's in spirit or by blood, there are those that refuse to commit to their ministries and their servanthood one to the other. Here's the unique thing. When siblings are good siblings to each other, they also empower their parents to be good to each other. And they relieve them from pressures and or burdens that they have in order to be people or purposes that God has called them to be. The firstborn is the one that breaks the yoke. The secondborn is the one that bears the yoke. The last one is the one that yields the fruit from the yoke. The problem is there's no conversation and or communication about our roles, responsibilities, um, um, commitments to those orders and or roles. And we do it in secular jobs. We do it in other places and spaces, but we don't do it in the familial context. And we don't do it in the familial context because of the trauma associated with whatever joined us together to begin with. Isolation, seclusion, separatism, abandonment, rejection are native issues to anybody that feels like they're the only child. And this does not have to just mean I'm the only child of my mother and my father. You can be the only child in the sense that you're the first to experience what you experience. And so the subject of isolation is a very important one because nobody experiences their full potential and or destiny in isolation. Destiny has a context. And when you are somebody that was born without mutual understanding, mutual agreement, mutual support, mutual protection, they end up not living in their full fruit, their full potential, and who and what they are in God. So the only child syndrome, the greatest danger is that they end up self-centered and they end up self-focused and they end up self-conscious. And all of that selfness, self-worship, self-awareness, it kind of strays you away from the will of God. Here's why. You cannot be self-centered and obedient to God. There's no way that somebody that is so focused on themselves can do what they don't want to do and do what they don't feel like they can do. So the only child syndrome, the grandest risk is what I'm going to do about myself. And that's where Jesus comes in. The godly ordained complications of the child prodigy is this. I will grant a gift to a vessel that does not know how to carry, yield, and use it, and I'll grow it through everything, circumstance, life, relationships, etc. But the child prodigy, like Samuel, like Jeremiah, like Jesus, they bear incumbent upon them not just being self-taught, but being self-protected, moving through seasons of trial, struggle, tribulations, and etc. I grieve often for child prodigies. And when we think about figuring out family, when you get a prodigy, they often run the risk of becoming the golden goose. And when you become the golden goose, you can become a flying eagle. And so there are situations and assertions, supportive mechanisms that need to be around something that is inexperienced, that is inherited, something that is eternal. That's what a child prodigy is. They're young, but what they wear is very old. And there are those that need the thing that's on them and the thing that they carry and the thing that they wear on them. The problem is the gift is fine. The skill is fine. The habit, the hobby, the talent. But the soul of the child prodigy is why most child prodigies end up in premature death. They don't know what they need and they don't express what they need, and people don't know how to respond to and or center themselves around a prodigy. A child prodigy has a genius that they don't understand that others are amazed by. And while others are amazed by it, the prodigy is confused by it. So you have a Samuel laying by the ark with electricity, angels, activity around it. And other people are like, whoa, how do you handle that? And he's like, this is my native environment. That's the issue. The child prodigy has a native environment that they think is their norm, but is abnormal to everybody else. I think, I suspect, every child prodigy has more calling to influence than they know. The nation is in the prodigy. The culture is in the prodigy. The society is in the prodigy. But the prodigy bears the problem of being misunderstood, and that is a price because you show up as an answer before people know there's a problem. And so you've got to learn to live. It's the Michael Jackson, it's the Prince, it's the Oprah Winfrey, it's all of you. You have to understand living before your era. The difference with us is when you've been filled with the Holy Ghost is a glossary. He's a dictionary. He has the power to explain, and he has the power to help you explore why your journey is your journey and why you are who you are. I've done a biblical study of people called as children: Samuel, Jeremiah, Jesus, Josiah, a king at about 8 or 9 years old who needed to partner with and hold hands with a prophetess by the name of Huldah to help him discover, but he was in the seat. And so I don't think that immaturity disqualifies you from where you're called to be. I think your lack of partnership disqualifies you from where you're supposed to be. So prodigy, the issue of it is always genius. You never find a prodigy without a genius. What you feel like you are in deficit in from blood, genetics, God will provide for you by spirit. It's by spirit that the Lord connects you to destiny. And there's a lot of people that think that their destiny, their ministry, their assignment is done by blood alone. But there is a way for God to do it by the power of the Spirit. Elijah and Elisha were not connected by blood. They were connected by purpose. And there are people that have been anointed by God to partner with you for the point of God, the purpose of God. And there is a saying that blood is thicker than water. I vehemently disagree. I think that the Spirit of grace will assign people to you to help you mature, grow into your potential as by purpose. And they could come from anywhere. They don't have to look like you and sound like you and be like you, but they understand the power of the pressure of heaven upon you. Heaven grants pressure. And when heaven grants pressure upon a you, a her, or him, it joins you in such a way where the mandate is most important. I submit to you that mandate is more important than personality. And there are people that are more committed to personality than they are their mandate. And when you understand your mandate, you submit and you yield to the people you need. He sets the lonely in families. Family assignments are a part of the narrative of God through Jesus, who considers himself the Word. And what he does is he causes family units, spiritual or by blood, to come together to express himself. God expresses himself through the family unit. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When there is absenteeism and somebody chooses to abdicate their role, their place in that family, what happens is what cannot happen by blood happens by family. And we see that because Joseph had to live in such a way where he was Jesus's um, um, subsequent dad, but not dad by blood. There's a thing where we think that everything that we retrieve and have or have to hold has to happen by blood. But spirit is more powerful than blood. And God anointed Joseph to be Jesus's father in the way that he knew Jesus would need to be a carpenter, the carpenter's son. But there was no genetic proof that Jesus belonged to Joseph. But there was proof that Joseph trained Jesus by reason of skill and gift and way. Because Jesus said, upon this rock, I will build. Joseph, a builder, Jesus, a builder. So the way God builds things is, if he can't get it in you genetically, he'll get it into you spiritually. And he'll get it into you by his will, his point, his purpose, his statement. My theory is that all family units, churches, blood families, spiritual families, friendships, brotherhoods, my theory is this: they all are supposed to be units that lead to the will of God, that get people to the will of God, the way of God, the point of the purpose of people's maturity. That's what family does. If family leads you to the past, it's not the family, it's the adversary. But when they start talking future, that's how you know your family. That's what it is. Everybody okay? Let's exhale. Yo, this is Dr. Matthew Stevenson III. Follow me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and we're going to continue to journey with you and partner with you as you learn how to grow through your purpose, your destiny, your deliverance, and all things you. Join me.